storing information was very expensive. So to save space and money, programmers shortened the date code by using only 2 digits instead of 4. 1970 became 70, 1971, 71, and so on. At the time, it seemed like a great idea. Until recently, virtually every computer on the planet contained this 2-digit year code that in a few months from now will read the year 2000 as 00. This 00, unless fixed, will be processed as 1900 in many cases, or will not be understood at all, and that is a big problem. It's a simple problem, but so widespread that experts say there's just not enough time to fix it completely. It should have been addressed years ago, and now time is running out. The countdown is being declared by days, hours, minutes, and seconds on internet sites around the world. If we fall into a state of emergency, it will take years and years to fully recover.
By the fall of 1999, it should be quite clear whether or not the government and businesses will be ready or not. At that point, we should be able to clearly anticipate most potential failures. Until then, we can only guess what will happen. There are at least 3 scenarios that should be considered at this time. The first is a probability of disruptions for a few days. The majority of Y2K problems will most likely fall into this category, and this is a situation you can do something about. Your plan should be similar to preparing for a natural disaster in your area, one that would cause power outages and transmission problems.
Make a list of what you will need. If the power goes out for 2 or 3 days, what are the things you should do now so you won't panic if that happens? Remember, this doesn't have to catch you by surprise. You can be prepared. If your refrigerator and freezer won't work, how will that affect your food supply? Do you have a backup plan? If your microwave and stove won't work, how will you heat things? Do you have food supplies that don't need to be heated? If water and sewers were affected, do you have adequate bottled water? It is also important to consider what you'll do if the toilets won't flush. What are your alternatives? If the stores are closed and you can't get food, do you have non-perishable supplies on hand? If the pharmacies are closed and you can't get medicine, can you get an extra supply in advance, especially prescription drugs? If the ATM doesn't work and you can't get cash, in addition to your checking account, do you have any ready reserves? If the gasoline pumps don't work at the gas station because the power is sporadic, are you planning a trip during those holidays?
Software is now available for assessing the Y2K compliance of your personal computer, whether used for business or at home. Don't wait until the last minute to check out your systems. Do it now.
In addition, you need to be mentally prepared if the phones don't work for a few days. Have a plan worked out with those people close to you for contacting each other. If your TV doesn't work, do you have a battery-powered radio for emergency information? If the traffic signals don't work properly, decide to keep a level head and be careful about driving when you don't need to. If buses aren't operating, do you have an alternative form of transportation? If airplanes aren't flying, will that affect your work? Are you planning a trip over those holidays? You might want to reconsider. If your employer were to shut down for a few days, can you prepare during the last few days of December so you won't face a crisis? Or if you miss a paycheck or government check, do you have enough reserves to make it through a month without that income?
The second scenario is more serious, less likely, but some experts think possible, with disruptions that could last up to a month or 2. We may not know if this will be a reality until the fall of 1999, but it's good to think about it now while there's still time to do something about it. Putting aside enough cash to take you through a month or 2 would be difficult to achieve in a short time, but it could be accomplished over a year or so if you were serious about it. That's why you should start now. If you were out of work for a month with no paycheck, what would you do? Dealing with power outages for a month is practically inconceivable for most of us, and though unlikely, the possibility deserves thoughtful consideration now at a time when you can think calmly and clearly. Having enough food, water, and medicine to last 30 to 60 days will be easier for some than others. Those living in small quarters may have to consider other contingencies, like thinking about who you could move in with for a time. The third scenario is something we probably can't do very much about. It's a position that a number of experts have taken and one that elicits grave concern. While not trying to create a general panic, these industry experts are suggesting we could be in for serious trouble. They're talking about a major collapse of the economy and infrastructures for up to a year or more. This is highly unlikely because most major businesses and governments are beginning to pull out all the stops to ensure their mission-critical systems will continue to operate. Progress is being made every day. With so much at stake, we would hope that those in a position of leadership will do everything possible to avoid that scenario. But considering the insidious nature of the Y2K problem, the embedded chips, interconnectivity, and the possible chain reaction of disturbances in all aspects of our existence, it merits serious contemplation. If we are prepared mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and are willing to take action, we can begin to turn this crisis into opportunity, an opportunity for greatness. May each of us take that step starting today, and may God be with us.
This video presentation is part 1 of your Y2K Personal Preparation Kit. Part 2, the Y2K Survival Guide, is a 44-page workbook filled with practical information to help you prepare for this event. These two items together provide you a firm foundation so you can be part of the solution, not part of the problem.